Sexual energy, the fullness of sexual energy, the healing of sexual energy, the cultivating of sexual energy, the coming into right relationship for ourselves, uniquely, individually, with our own sexual energy, with others' sexual energy, with sexual energy out in the world. I could talk about this for probably 4 years and still not run out of things to talk about. I have been working in this realm since I was 15 years old, maybe younger. Or really, I was that girl who really pushed the edges around what is culturally been placed on top of me around my sexuality versus what is healthy, true expression of sexuality. I won't go into my history. I want to talk just about what I can share with you all around your own sexual energy. And I want to give, I wrote 6, I said 5 practices to heal, cultivate, and harness your own sexual energy and shift your relationship to sexual energy. So, sometimes we hear about, and this is a quick reflection question, and for those, Barbara, I could listen for 4 years. Oh my God, I would rather stick a fork in my eye than listen to myself for 4 years, but I love you, woman. I literally can never listen to recordings of anything that I ever do, because it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. So here's a quick reflective question around our own relationship to sexuality, just coming into this conversation, whether it's on the podcast or it's here on the live or it's YouTube or somewhere else, just feeling, what were your feels around it? What like sexual energy? Was it like, yes, I know that there's so much more, or shit, this might trigger me, this might take me somewhere, I don't know about this. And I would love for this conversation to gift you as much as possible. And in order for it to gift you as much as possible, I'm going to invite us to be in a really open-minded, receptive state. Also a very compassionate state. So we're going to walk into some territory, and some of us have very tricky, intricate, multi-layered relationships to sexual energy. And for some of us, it's painful. For some of us, it's grief-filled. For some of us, it's rage-filled. For some of us, it's confusing. And so the more that we can have this compassion for self, but be courageous to walk into this territory and be courageous to be honest with ourselves, the more we'll get out of this. So just that invitation, as always, right? We're always diving into the unknown and the unconscious, but for this one especially, I want to hold that compassion piece, and I want to hold us with love. I want to hold you with love, me with love, everyone who ever touches into this with love as we walk into this territory. So I remember, I'm going to go into principle number 1. I'm going to kind of dive right in. I remember in my very early 20s, someone saying to me, your sexual energy is yours. Something along those lines. I'm trying to remember the words, but it was like, the cultivation of your sexual energy is your responsibility. And now I'm not saying that that's right or that's wrong. This is just our doorway in. I remember saying, your pleasure is dependent on your relationship to your own sexual energy. Your capacity to be turned on is your relationship to your sexual energy. And I also remember hearing a lot of things in working in some of these realms around, this energy is yours. This energy is yours. The energy that's roaring through you right now, or opening up in you, or is feeling like you're turned on, or you're coming alive, or you're feeling sexual. It's yours. It's yours. It's yours. It's yours. It's the energy that is innately running through you. It's yours. So this is the first practice, if we're going to give like 5 of the best practices that I can give you, and I shouldn't say best, I want to say 5 of like the best foundational practices, right? If we were working together in a retreat or in living reunion, it's a different story because we can build on this and go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So I'm not going to say they're the best practices, but they're the best that I can give you on this sort of public forum, platform, foundational level that we're talking on. Don't get me wrong, they're going to be good. They're not like intro like Sex 101. They're good. So this real, and this is coming back to this reflective space now again, is this real space of owning our sexual energy. And not from like an owning, grasping, manipulating, clinging onto it, but standing in it, standing with it. It is not other than me. It is not someone else's responsibility to invoke it in me. That's a big one. That's a big one. That might have been a truth bomb. It is not someone else's responsibility to invoke it in me. That hit me like a ton of bricks. Yes, that is glorious. That is glorious when I can dance, right, and make love, and you can play with sexual energy, and it can be invoked in you, and you can invoke it in another, right? And yes, but it's way more than that. And that's where I want to kind of bring us to is opening up the door to sexual energy is so much more. So even for me, and I've been studying this like intimately, embodying this, teaching this for 20 years, right? Even for me, there is more. There's more. There's more. We're talking about the very like energetics of the essence of life, the energetics of what it is that creates, it is the creative essence in me. It is, to me, it is my life force. It is quite literally like a fountain of youth. Working with sexual energy, my body is like fountain of youth energy. Fountain of youth energy. Y'all want to not get wrinkles and not get gray hair and stay young forever? Work with your sexual energy. But this, like expanding our minds, sexual energy is not sex. That is like 1/1,000,000th of what sexual energy is. And so I've just this invitation to allow our minds to be blown a little bit, allow ourselves to expand that. And I shared a quote on Instagram, and I think I shared it here in our Facebook group too, if you're watching this in our Facebook group. If you're not hanging out with me on Instagram, I think you should. It's fun over there. But anyways, so I shared this quote of something along the lines of, there is nowhere that my sexual energy does not touch. I think I shared this too in the Facebook group. And if you're not a part of the Facebook group and you're watching this later, you should come hang out with us there too. It's fun there too. But there is nowhere that my sexual energy does not touch. There is nowhere that my relationship to my own sexuality does not influence. There's nowhere in my life that my relationship to my own sexual energy does not influence. Those are big, ballsy words, right? Those are big, ballsy words. And you do not have to agree with those words at all. I love healthy skepticism. I love healthy conversation around it. I'm not going to get into a conversation around it. It's kind of something to just ruminate on and to feel into. And if someone would have told me that 10 years ago, I would have said, you're out of your fucking mind. Garbage. Anyways, we'll kind of move on. But let me wrap up this first point and this first practice. This first point, first practice, let me make it tangible. It's, can we move into a place where our sexual energy is one, it's our own. It's our own, right? Like that is massive in itself. It is our own. It is our own. My sexual energy is my own, right? Not that I can't share it, not that it can't be invoked by another, but it is mine. And to cultivate that relationship, this loving relationship, this reverent relationship with sexual energy is so powerful and so profound. This kind of leads me into number 2, but let me finish on this, is can we start to cultivate a relationship with raw, pure, essence of sexual energy, raw, pure essence of sexual energy, not sexual energy with an image placed on top of it, or an experience placed on top of it, or a definition placed on top of it. Can we do what it takes, what practices we're called to explore, how we're called to explore, how we're called to meditate, how we're called to move or dance, or even sit in stillness and just observing and witnessing sexual energy from a place of its raw, pure essence. Like, get to the essence of it, get to the essence of it, get to the essence of it. And can you start to find a relationship that is in reverence to it? In like a reverent relationship. I know I'm asking a lot. I know I'm asking a ton, given the culture we live in, given the family systems that we grew up in, given all of the stuff in our societies around sexuality. This is asking a lot. Okay, so let me weave into number 2. Number 2 is with compassion and with radical honesty, but with compassion, self-inquiry in a radically honest way, And this just weaves right in from number 1, from practice 1, feeling into, okay, do I have a reverent relationship with sexual energy? Well, what's there? When I start to feel into my own sexual energy, does shame arise? Does patterned nervous system expression arise? Does some sort of expectation arise? Does I feel this and I automatically go here, right? I feel turned on in some way and I automatically go here, or it automatically has to represent this. How much am I on autopilot around my sexuality? How programmed? I know that when I was in my teens and my early 20s, I was like a programmed robot around sexuality. And I had no idea because I didn't cultivate the relationship to my body, to that energy in my body, right? It was just, I would feel turned on and it would be, oh, this must mean this. Or I get turned on. The only outlet of expression that I know is the thing that turned me on. I should express with that. What? Again, that's like 1/1,000,000th of the possibilities and the potentialities and the expressions of sexual energy. So this compassion for self, compassion for our family systems, compassion for the world around us, but being radically honest with self, and being okay to go, I have a shit relationship with sexual energy. I don't understand it. I get uncomfortable with it. I feel like I'm a clinched up robot with it. It's not something that is connected to love or life for me. It's something that's very compartmentalized. I have programming from my religion around it. I have shame and guilt and all of those things, right? And it's so finding the spaces, finding the sort of self-reflective practices, the internal inquiry practices around it that help us with compassion and with love, that help us to shine a light on it. So with that, this curiosity, walking into it with curiosity. Okay, there's got to be more, but I'm curious. What's here now? I'm curious. Like what kind of programming is limiting me? What kind of beliefs or what kind of emotional blocks are limiting me? So that's number 2. Now I love number 2, but I hate number 2. I'll tell you why. Love number 2 because it brings insights, it shines a light, but I hate number 2 because it's so mental typically. So number 3 is embodied. Sexual energy is embodied. Sexual energy is linked to feminine, right? Feminine, soulful, right? If you feel into feminine-based paths, typically, I'm making broad stroke generalizations, and you can light me up if you want to, but these are just very broad generalizations. Feminine paths are typically, right? typically, feminine practices, feminine paths are typically inclusive of the body, inclusive of emotion, inclusive of the body, inclusive of sexuality. Many more traditional, older masculine paths are exclusive of, are spirit other than matter. Feminine-based paths are spirit in matter, right? Spirit in my sexual energy. I don't know why I just went off on that tangent. Gotta weave the divine in, right? I've gotta weave the divine. I know we're talking about sexual energy, but how can I not weave spirit and soul and the divine into all of this? So now we start to talk about sacred sexuality. We start talking about like sacred prostitute, and there's lots of videos on YouTube that I've just done on that. So if like that's something that you're, like if you're on YouTube, you'll see links up and down to dive further into sacred sexuality and like the archetypal energy of sacred prostitution and all of that. But let me come back here and really talk about embodiment. So when we're working with sexual energy and self-inquiry, great, love it. But now it's body knowing, body gnosis, right? My yoni knows this. My womb, my cervix knows it. I can have cervical orgasms, not because I read a book, not because I did mental inquiry, but because my body is experiencing it. My body is doing it. And so if we're going to explore sexual energy and we're going to do it properly and fully, we've got to experience it. It's an experiential gnosis. It's an embodiment gnosis. It's working with it. It's getting in the body. It's working with pleasure. It's working with breath and movement and sound and letting that energy move through our bodies, not just analyzing, what are my pleasure principles and taking all these quizzes and then analyzing, well, what blocks me in my sexuality? That's great to know all of that. That, however, hasn't changed your nervous system typically. It hasn't changed your body. It hasn't changed your sexual organs. It hasn't changed how much that juice can flow through you. It hasn't changed how much you can, your capacity to experience pleasure. So now this moves me into point number 3. Are we on 3? We're on 3. We're on point 3. So this is finding our edges. So this will be point 3 and 4. Finding our edges. Finding our edges. Where is so there's 2 edges I want to talk about. This will be point 3 and point 4. Point 3, and for those of you who are in living reunion and we're working with sexual energy this week, we worked with both of these. We worked with both of them. One is typically considered more feminine, one is typically considered more masculine, although I kind of want to throw those out the window because I don't like it being masculine, feminine, man, woman. I hate it. It drives me crazy. So let's just throw that out the window, and I'm going to talk about it from like grassroots level. So point number 3, finding our edge. And it's what is my current capacity to allow, and we'll use the word pleasure in replace of sexual energy, because I think for us that's sexual energy doesn't necessarily have to be pleasurable, right? That's an expression of sexual energy. So sexual energy could be creative feeling. Sexual energy could be, like I said, fountain of youth energy. This starts to get into sex transmutation. I think we have a video on that. If we do, we'll put links all over the place so you can find that. But I don't want to go into that. I want, there's this really funny like edginess that comes into, or just like, I want to get the claws out and the fangs out around sex transmutation, because then I start to get really wild about the manipulation of it from an ego place. Like I am egoically going to manipulate my sexual energy or someone else's sexual energy to fulfill my egoic desires or to get what I want or to manifest shit on my vision board. And I start to get, right? This is my like advocacy for sacred sexuality and just authentic, full, divine expression of it from a true, full, big, soulful place. Anyways, that's a whole nother topic that I won't go into. So if we're just going to use the expression of sexual energy as pleasure, right? Again, it doesn't have to be that, but we'll just use that. It's finding where is our edge with the amount of pleasure we can move through our body, right? And again, this is a great moment to just reflect like, oh, I don't know if I can roll pleasure through my body. I don't know what my relationship is with pleasure, but if we're linking in this moment anyways, we're linking pleasure, orgasmic pleasure, ecstasy with sexual energy, then we start to go, okay, what's my current capacity for that? What's my current capacity? And literally your nervous system has a capacity. It has a capacity. We all have a capacity. And it's working to expand that capacity if that's what we want. If we want to cultivate, and by the way, this is extraordinarily healing too. So healing, cultivating, harnessing, all of that, they're all very, very interlinked. But if we want to cultivate our capacity to express sexual energy, to embody sexual energy, to allow it to move through our systems, we have to work on that. It's a practice. It's like a pleasure practice, and you'll see tons of things out there around pleasure practices, but it's working that edge. So number 3 is the embodiment, the expression of sexual energy. And again, it doesn't just have to be pleasure, right? You could go through it with Fountain of Youth. You could tap into sexual energy in your body and go, okay, there's my sexual energy. And then go, okay, if I was gonna feel into the aspect of my sexual energy that is Fountain of Youth, okay? Now I feel into my sexual energy as youthful, as youthful energy. And then I allow that and I invite that to just roll through the whole of my being, right? I allow it to bathe my cells. I allow it to move through the whole of my being, right? What's our capacity for that? Where's our edge? How long can you stay present to it? How uncomfortable do you get, right? Do you feel weird? Do you feel awkward? Do you feel, right? All of those things. It's like, so finding our edge, this is all self-inquiry, but it's embodied self-inquiry. So that was number 3. Now I want to flip that. So that's the embodiment and the expression and the movement of sexual energy through our beings. And now I want to flip it and I want to move to the observing, witnessing sexual energy. So instead of being the embodiment of sexual energy and letting it move through, it's now shifting over. You could call this masculine-based practice. Again, I don't like those terms because then we go into man and woman. We all have these capacities. But then if we were to move into masculine practice, what could be considered masculine practice, let's call it witness practice. Witness practice. It's so hard to work with psyches. I'm just feeling like all the minds and the brains going like, bah! But it's the observation, right? It's I remember a partner of mine many years ago, and he was like, my pleasure is derived from your pleasure. My pleasure, I get more pleasure from your pleasure than I get from my own pleasure. That's masculine essenced, or that's witness essenced, where it is, I would rather observe it, right? Witness it, be the invoker of it, be the one to invoke your pleasure, move your pleasure through your body, like the director of your pleasure, than the one who is the embodiment of it and letting it move through, right? So now it's working that edge. So we're still in the realms of working the edge. Point number 3, the one that we just spoke about, was what is your edge of your capacity to move it through our bodies and stay with it. We stay present to it. Our ability to allow it to move through every aspect of our being, every layer, even through our emotional being, through our mental realms, through all the different realms. It's not just part of body. And then, Jillian, I love this. Oh my God, this is me. I like to witness. fuck yeah, woman. Thank you for saying that. And this is why I like throwing away masculine and feminine and man and woman, because we all have it. And so this is an opportunity here. Just a quick reflective question. I'll kind of break out of soliloquy and whatever, lecturing, and just give us this brief pause to go, okay, what is my preference? Do I prefer to be the embodiment and to have the energy rolling through me? Or do I prefer to like witness it, to watch it? Like I get more pleasure from another's pleasure, and a lot of times it's getting more pleasure from another's pleasure, and it's because I've created that container or that space. I've created that atmosphere. We go back into, I've done lots of videos on this too, and we'll put links to these things too, but masculine as atmosphere, right? As I'm creating the space for all of that energy to move, right? I'm the orchestra, what do you call that? The orchestra person, right? Like, and then you're the instrument. Do you want to be the instrument, or do you want to be the player of the instrument? Do you want to be the energy rolling through you, or do you want to be the atmosphere around holding? So, Brooke, I love it. I'm a firm both. Yes, I love this. I love and honor both, and for me, like I love both. I have a preference though. I very much prefer to be. This is me though, right? We all are so different. So just because I'm about to share this does not mean that, oh shoot, I should shift my authentic inner nature. Your authentic inner nature is already written in you. It's already written, it's written on your heart. It's written in your being. It's already written there. The blueprint is already there. So these things that, like, sure, maybe they shift or they change, but it's about us just, right, that like, I'm cool to be me. Like, I'm so cool to be me. But for anyone who's been hanging out for a while, anytime I speak about sexuality, I think I'm always referring, like, I can do both, I love both, but I much prefer being the embodiment. But much. It's just me though, that's my blueprint. It's not to say that I'm not good at both. It's not to say that I don't totally love both, or I'm not gifted by being in a witness, facilitator, orchestra player, instrument player role by any means. Okay, so finding our edge. So if we're in witness, let me wrap this piece up. So if we're in witness, it's finding where I cannot stay present to, where I can't stay present to. So this is the practice, is being able to stay present longer, being present, right? You are not playing porn in your head. You are not in some past experience. You are not, none of that. You are fucking in the moment, right? You are in the moment. So this could be point number 5. Point number 5 is enough not being present, enough skating out into some other fucking space when we're naked, when we're expressing sexual energy, when we're observing sexual energy. Can we stop placing something on top of it, right? Can we stop placing a porn scene on top of it? Can we stop placing a past wounded, traumatic experience on top of it? Now, I'm not saying that there isn't healing to do around stuff like that at all. I have walked through years of sexual healing. I have watched men and women walk through years of sexual healing. I fucking honor it, and it is a thing. So do not get me wrong. I am not saying like that we cannot and we should not revere past experiences, or even unconscious stuff that we're holding that we don't even know about. So that's another wild aspect, is sometimes our sexuality and the limitations of our sexuality don't even come from experiences in this life. Those are the trippy ones. Those are the trippy ones where it's like, whoa, it's actually a karmic thing I've walked in with, or it's actually, I've absorbed this from my mother's womb. I've absorbed this from my ancestral DNA. I've absorbed sexual trauma or sexual limitation that have led to sexual limitations that are not from this life. Those are trippy. So that's something to just feel into. Like, I remember when I was, 30, maybe? 28, I'm not sure, something around those lines. Someone pointing that out to me and going, what? And it was extraordinarily liberating because it opened a door and allowed me to go into places where I didn't think I had healing to do because of all the other stories and experiences that I've heard. Like, who the fuck am I to say I need sexual healing when I don't have nearly what these traumatic stories are that I've heard? Like, who am I to even assume that right? Can you feel that energy? But there was a lot that I had to do, and it was absorbed womb stuff, it was family stuff, it was past life stuff. For me, that's how it showed up. So just kind of opening up that door to allow us all to go beyond. I know I've shared this in retreats and workshops often, and it's like a big epiphany moment for a lot of people. Like, oh my God, like, it's okay for me to know or to sense or to feel like that there's something here, but I don't have a story for it. I don't have an experience in this life. And here's what I want to share. You don't need one. You don't need to have a traumatic sexual experience in this life to have sexual trauma, to have limitations on your relationship to your sexuality. You don't need one. You don't need one. Most of us have just absorbed it. Most of us have walked in with it. Most of us have gotten it from the womb. We've gotten it from past life experience. We've just absorbed the collective shit that we sit in around sexual energy. So I want to share that because that, I oftentimes see that as just being this epiphany moment in retreats of like, oh my God, thank God, right? Okay, so let me feel, where were we at? We were at witness and we were at finding the edge. We were talking about placing other things on top. We said number 4 was to be present to the moment. Be present to the moment. You become a profoundly, I don't even know what the word is, lover, an amazing lover when you are so in the moment, right? You are fully in the moment, fully here. And it's not even making love, right? You could be creating. Like, I make love to the world all of the time. I make love to my creative project. I'm kind of making love right now, right? I am so here. I am so here. I am so in this energy. I am so with you. I'm not out with the snow that's happening outside. I'm not thinking about my dog downstairs. I'm not thinking about, and I'm here, right? And that is a huge practice in itself, is to be so fully here in nakedness, in creation, in pleasure, in vulnerability, in shame, in grief, in all of it, to just be in it, Okay. Oh, I could go on that for a really long time. So that's 4. I said 5. I've got many more. Let's go with, maybe that was 6. I don't even know. 3 and 4. I think that was 5. This will be 6. Actually, I'm not sure that I want to share that one as 6. Let me just feel. How can you, this is 6, how can you give yourself permission to explore more? How can you find a way to honor and to revere sexual energy, to stop putting it in a container of this is not important. My relationship to my sexual energy is not that important. It doesn't affect my health. It doesn't affect my youthfulness. It doesn't affect my energy level. It doesn't affect my relationship. It doesn't affect the way that I parent my kids. It doesn't affect my career. It doesn't affect the way that I show up in the world. It doesn't affect my capacity to be present. It doesn't. what can you do in this moment to go, actually, it kind of affects everything. Actually, like, the degree to which your sexual energy is liberated and free and alive and open and awakened and not judged and not shamed and not stuffed in a corner is the degree to which your health is, right? Like, how can you cultivate a relationship? How can you give yourself permission to fucking go there? Right? Like, what is it that you need to be told around the importance of this and how much this will change your life? This will literally change every aspect of your life. It will change every aspect. It changed every aspect of my life. I watch it change all of the men and women who I work with around sexual energy and their relationship to it. I watch it change everything. It touches everything. It touches my capacity to be here with you like this. It touches my capacity to be this much full of juice and this much. People ask me, like, Sabrina, why do you have so much energy? Because I have a really great relationship to my sexual energy. I didn't always. I had a horrific relationship to my sexual energy. Horrific, right? Like, if this is my fullness, I was like, meh. That was my relationship to my sexual energy, right? It was there, and it was robotic. It was limited. It was robotic, So that's my point number 6, and it's just really this: where are you called, right? Like, where are you called? What can you do around your relationship to sexual energy? Because really, this is us not just inviting ourselves to come into right relationship or next highest relationship to our own sexual energy. It's coming into next highest relationship to love. It's coming into next highest relationship to life, to creative potential. It's coming into next highest relationship to relationship itself, right? It's coming into next highest relationship. That's it. And you could keep it locked away in a corner and keep it in a box. Go for it. Go for it. You can. We all have choice, and there's nothing preventing you from doing that. Like, and if that feels right for you, to like, sexuality stays over here in a box on the shelf and it is only about fucking in the bedroom, that's okay. That's totally okay. But if there's any part of you going, I think there could be a little something here. I think Sabrina might be honest, or for myself, I think there's something else here. I think this could shift a little something in my life. You don't have to bite the whole enchilada that I'm sharing. Sexual energy touches everything. Throw that in the fuck it bucket, right? Throw that in the fuck it bucket. But if there's any part of you that's like, if that brings about more energy, if that brings about my capacity to be more present, if that brings about maybe a little bit less judgment or a little bit less projection that I place on my partner, or if that brings about, I don't know, a little bit of a healthier relationship to food, to addiction, to how I sustain myself, to how I nourish myself, well, maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's worth diving into some of these practices. Maybe it's worth exploring a little bit more. Maybe it's worth dancing with my sexual energy in the shower. Maybe it's worth doing a little bit of self-inquiry. Maybe it's worth breaking out of the box a little bit. Maybe it's worth it. Wow. So much love to you all and to our community, and so grateful for those of you who are here live, for those of you watching the podcast, YouTube, wherever we're kind of hanging out. Just super grateful. If you got something out of this, leave a comment, leave a like, leave a subscribe, leave a share, leave a something. If there's a topic that you would love to go further into in a future live or a future podcast, let us know. We read all of them. We take all of them to heart and just feel what serves. So absolutely grateful for that. For those of you who are in Living Reunion, y'all sponsored this one. So for those of you who are in that 3-month journey, going through it. And this week we worked with sexual energy. Thank you all. It was you who inspired this and you who sponsor it. All of you who've ever done a rewilding or reunion or Sabrina Lynn or soul immersion program. It's you who makes all this possible. And I'm so grateful that we get to share this much freely and this much publicly. So thank you to all of our sponsors, anyone who has ever done anything with us. It's because of you that we get to do this. All right. So much love to you all. I will see you when I see you, where I see you, and how I see you.